Good evening, everybody, and welcome to session number 4 of the Achieve Anything Now basic course. Congratulations, we've made it to the end, and what a trip it's been. So remember, the whole premise of this course is, of course, if you don't have what you want in life, it's because you have too much resistance trapped in your unconscious mind. So the solution to that, of course, is emotional release. So couple Q&A from last week, right? Thank you for everybody who emailed in with your questions. So a couple of the things that came up were, the first one was, can I do the clearing process with more than one goal? There are several different trains of thought. Of course, the first thing I'm going to say is try it and see what works for you, right? Because every body is different. However, as a general rule, what I've heard in most of my other trainings, and then what I find personally has worked best for me, is to just do one goal at a time. For the simple reason, you might say, why? Well, the simple reason is, remember that your unconscious mind never made it past 7 years old. So when you're doing the inner child meditation from session number 1, or when you're going back through this, remember that your unconscious mind is like a little 5 or 6 or 7-year-old with 5 big jumbo crayons trying to draw and detail life as you've experienced it. So everything is going to come out as a distortion, a generalization, a symbol, a picture, kind of a metaphor, a number that rationally you might get confused with. But the unconscious mind basically needs to keep everything very, very simple. That's why we use a SMART goal for focus. And that's why we use the question of what's the very last thing that needs to happen in order for you to know that you've successfully completed the goal. So it only has those 2 simple things to focus on. So if you said, hey, James, but guess what? I want to move my business forward and make some money, and I want to do some issues with maybe my relationship, and I got some stuff to do with my health and my weight. Excellent. If you want to do more than one goal at a time, then my suggestion would be to do your clearing processes and a little mini morning meditation, maybe minus the exercise or the oxygen piece and the eating. Stay focused, write your goal, download, find out what the resistance is, and then do the meditation. Maybe just do it like morning, noon, and night and be consistent. So morning, maybe you're focusing on business. Afternoon, you're focusing on health. Evening, you're focusing on relationship, and keep it that way so that the unconscious mind can just assimilate those one at a time. Because imagine it's just like you saying, hey, you're stopping somebody on the side of the road to get directions, and you're trying to remember it all in your head and say, go down here, go left on Durant, and right on Six Forks, and left on wherever, and then go up to the top of the hill, and then take another left, but only for about 100 yards, and then you go right. You're not going to remember everything, generally speaking. So your unconscious mind is like that as well. So just split them up, do them at separate times if you want to do it. The next question was, hey, when I started to build that rapport with my unconscious mind, I had some disturbing images come up during my emotional release stuff. How do I deal with that? I would say the best thing to do with whatever your unconscious mind brings up is, first and foremost, for you to remember that the unconscious mind is only doing its best to give you its representation of something that it wants you to release. So we talked about that last time, and we're going to review it here real quick in a few minutes. It may come up as like a black sticky spot. It might come up with a visualization. It might come up with some negative self-talk. It might come up with some colorful forward letter negative self-talk, whatever that is. I just use this metaphor, a box of 5 colored super fat crayons having to draw something specific and contextual. The main thing to remember is that you're not what and how it's representing whatever it is to bring back up to you. Just remember that it's bringing back up that representation for you to clear it. So what's important is not how it brings it back up or what the context is that it brings it back up, but you make sure that consciously you're telling your unconscious mind, great, thank you for that. Let's just let it go and focus on the release aspect of whatever it's giving you. And then the last question was, hey, how often should I clear things up? And we're going to get into that towards the end of the call here today. But there's always 2 ways to approach clearing. One is proactive and one is reactive. And in the interest of not being redundant, we're going to cover that here towards the end of session number 4 when we wrap up how to move forward from here. So that being said, let's transition into a quick course review. So remember that you get the most out of this course the more consistent you do it. I've been doing it for 3 years now. I encourage you to continue to have this be a morning integral part of your life, just for overall evolution, overall better emotional states, better ability to attract and create what you want, and build and create what you want. So remember that you're going to get this graph here in terms of, before you came into this class, maybe you were at a certain level of performance. Well, you know what? Your unconscious mind, you're going to be suppressing all that negative stuff in your unconscious mind. As soon as you build that rapport, you'll hit this tipping point, right? And then you start to really have your unconscious mind let all that stuff go, and you're going to be meditating more than almost and releasing more than you think you probably should. I think I told you the metaphor. My family used to walk by and go, "Yep, Dad's sleeping again in the office. That's all he's doing is coaching and sleeping," right? And then you hit this tipping point where the majority of a lot of the big stuff is all gone. And then you'll move into higher and higher performance as you keep clearing in your contexts of money, relationship, health, whatever. And you'll just, in your awareness, keep making finer and finer distinctions as you continue to clear, but always continue to clear. Because as soon as you have this experience over here, like as soon as I did it in money and business, all of a sudden, guess what? I got a few health issues now. So working on clearing that up as well. So just know that everything is an ebb and a flow with the clearing stuff. You'll get into it. You'll be like, okay, yeah. And you clear a lot of stuff. You have a lot of great stuff happen. You have a lot of emotional releases. You'll be feeling it. And then you'll hit a time where you'll ebb and you'll keep doing it. You're like, well, I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling anything. Is this stuff even working anymore? And then all of a sudden you'll have a big release. Something great will happen again. So like everything, this is a process, and you'll have natural ebbs and flows in it. But I just encourage you to continue to clear all the time. So remember, your 7-year-old is there with that box of 5 big fat crayons. And as you visualize, remember that it's always going to give you something that's visual, like pictures, movies, symbols, right, as we do the clearing work. We talked a little about the auditory. I think this is really important. Limiting decisions are primarily auditory. So I made this distinction last time, but I think it bears distinction again. If you start to have a limiting belief come up, like one of the old ones I used to have was, I never had a role model. My dad never told me how. My dad never, or he never, right? So that would be a combination. Maybe he is or she is. My dad never, he never. No one ever did that for me. I didn't have a role model for success, right? If you have something, you can, of course, go back and clear up the limiting belief of I didn't have a role model to the very first time I did that. Or you can go even farther back and just clear up I didn't. That's why I didn't fill these in with any additional statements. So there's 2 ways to clear up limiting decisions. You can clear up, I don't have a role model for success. Great. You can clear up that specific belief. Or you can tell your unconscious mind, hey, let's clear up, I don't have a role model for success. And just go all the way back and clear up everything all the way back to the very first time I experienced I don't. I do not. Right? Perception of scarcity or awareness of scarcity or not. So there's 2 ways to clear up the limiting decisions for the auditory. Clear up the entire limiting belief. I didn't have a role model for success, or I don't have a role model for success, or just go back and clear up I don't. Either way is great. One is a little bit more all-inclusive than the other one. You'll get a deeper release with it, just I don't. But both of them, all clearing work is good clearing work. And then, of course, last but not least, a person can have kinesthetic representations. These will be more sensations, or this is all self-talk in your head. Kinesthetic will be more self-talk. Kinesthetic will be more emotional and feeling-oriented in your body, right? Like that's a pain in my tush or pain in your tush, right? Sometimes people feel the butterflies fluttering in their stomach. Kinesthetic feelings can have a heaviness to them, a weight, an emptiness, hollow. It can be a warm, cold, a vibration, a movement. So, your blood pounding in your veins, whatever that could be. So emotions and feelings we can also clear as well. So all three of these, that's how your unconscious mind presents things. So just be open to it. And like I said before on the previous screen, don't be so concerned about how it represents and brings things up for clearing. Just make sure that you stay focused on the actual process of clearing, right? So just remember, when you release a single event, it's really simple. You just ask and tell your unconscious mind when it brings up, hey, let's release this now. Breathe until you're clear your head of the thoughts if it's a limiting decision. Or if it's kinesthetic, you just breathe until you clear your diaphragm, your abdomen, or your body, wherever that is of the feeling. And then at the end, of course, always just remember to say thank you to your unconscious mind, because it's 7 years old. It wants to know when it's done a good job. It needs to know, hey, great job. I trust you now. Let's take our trust to the next level and keep clearing stuff up. So you can do this with the audio meditations, and you could actually start to do it without the audio meditations, because the second reason for doing this over and over, more and more and more, is the more your unconscious mind starts to go through the processes of emotional release. I can do all this stuff right now as I'm actually talking to you. I can just picture the forgiveness one, picture who I need to forgive in my head, say, I forgive you, I forgive me, I love you, I love me. We're going to get into that in a minute here. I release you, it's done, and let it go while I'm actually talking to you. I just did the release literally inside my head while I'm here. So, so please continue to do the audios, because you're actually training your unconscious mind. It gets better and better drawing with those jumbo crayons to give you what it is that you want to have. So the audio meditation from last week that I included in was the 4-step clearing process. So let's cover this real quick. I'm going to do it auditorily. So the basic course, remember, first was just building rapport with your inner child, and learning how to build rapport with the inner child by the 3 audios of first just learning to breathe, because all rapport with the unconscious mind, relaxation is rapport. So when you start to relax. And then we added in meditating on the light, and then we added in tapping the third eye, okay? Once we do that, the next step was to ask the unconscious mind, hey, just give me something to clear up. I trust you. You know what you need to let go of for us to be whole and healed and complete, so give that to me. The clearing process, and then we had the 4 audio meditations for each one of those specifically to start to get the unconscious mind focused. Because remember, the conscious mind has to tell the unconscious mind what to do. So those were the direct suggestions of, hey, clear up some anger. Hey, give me some sadness to clear up. Give me something that's guilt and regret. Give me something that's fear and anxiety. The 4-step clearing process, the outcome for this meditation specifically, is if you do your morning meditation, right, which we're going to cover in review here in a minute as well, the last step, step number 5, is to meditate. So we can encompass now trusting the unconscious mind to give us anything that we need to let go of in relationship to the goal and clear it up in one release, which is anger, sadness, fear, guilt, anxiety, limiting decisions, clear all that up. So what we do, of course, is just to relax and meditate on the light. Or if you relax enough, you'll drop down to 6.8 cycles per second to the blue-black spot, where you become centered. And the first outcome for meditation is just to energize your mind, body, and spirit. So that's what we do first. Then we release, right? So you clear your mind. That's the limiting decisions. You let those go. And then you release the negative emotions or the decision or the belief, and you just project it into the light. You release it literally by giving it up to the light. The third thing that we do is, you can see how this works in with the morning routine. We're going to imagine our goal, what we want to visualize, what we want to build, create, the SMART goal, and the very last thing that needs to happen in order for us to know we've achieved it. We want to imagine that and just send it into the light. Put your focus and your intention there. And then, of course, the 4th step is to ask for guidance, a clear next step. And then, of course, you wake up from the meditation, just take some action immediately, trusting what feels right, keeping that nice relaxation, that nice relaxed state. Just get up and engage there. So this is a great step or process to do in the middle of the day. If you feel all of a sudden, hey, I'm kind of out of sorts, I don't know what to do next for my goal, whatever, perfect. It's a great overall meditation. Relax, find the light. Of course, you're going to tap and everything there and breathe. Make sure any negative limiting decisions are gone. Make sure any negative emotions are gone. Imagine the goal, what you want to have. And then say, hey, what's a clear next step for me to move forward towards that? And then get back up and engage in your day. That's the only time you can trust what your unconscious mind gives you, because that's where your head is clear, your body is clear of any and all resistance. You get connected to what you really want to have, and that's your place of truth. So hope you got to do the 4-step clearing process. If you have any questions on that, we can answer them at the end of the Q&A. But I hope you enjoyed that. I listened to this one actually quite a bit. So remember, of course, that how your conscious mind knows that the program is working and how things are going really well, of course, is if you start to notice little coincidences, lucky things, right? Instead of getting eaten now, you're like, whoo, that was close. Boy, I'm lucky, right? That didn't quite happen. That actually happened to me today. I always get a front row parking space, pulled into Walmart because I needed to return a few things for the business. I pulled right in. This lady's getting out. I turn on my turn signal. She pulls out. And right before I can pull in, some little old lady didn't see me there. And she just pulls straight into my front row space. And before my brain could even register, with a few colorful words, or I honk my horn or get mad or anything, literally not the car right next to her, but the next one. So it was the third car down. Put on their lights, pulled right out. Their brake lights went on. They pulled right out, and there was no cars anywhere around. I pulled right into the parking space. Close enough, right? Celebrate at 90%. So if you start to see coincidences and those small lucky things happening over and over and over again, awesome. Appreciate that. Say thank you to your unconscious mind. The other way is, and this happens a lot actually, if you do this 4-step clearing process and you do this last step where you get up, you ask for guidance to clear next step, and then get up and take action immediately in that calm, relaxed state. This is what you'll experience a lot more in the moment right after the meditation, which is that state of flow, right? Where your actions and your awareness just kind of merge. There's a real sense of control, but no control. You almost have a loss of self-consciousness. Transformation of time just slows down, speeds up. Next thing you know, you're just knocked out about 10 things on your list without even really thinking about it, and it all just flowed well. That's the second way you know that this is working, because your conscious mind kind of takes a break with all the negative self-talk, and you just flow through something, right? You kind of get lost in the moment and flow right through it. So money goals, this is a little bit of a review from last time. We want to use this process that works best specifically when you're clearing up stuff around a very specific goal. All clearing is good clearing, but moving forward from here, be sure you pick a goal, and all good goals mean you're going to grow. Growth comes from releasing things. So asking yourself, what am I going to build and create that will generate the amount of money I want to make, right? So when I had the goal this year for my money goal, I had asked myself, in my business this year, what am I going to build and create that's going to allow me to have that level of income? And I decided, guess what? I need to really build my sales and marketing processes and my sales funnel there. Next year, it's all going to be about building a team of coaches. So you want to always ask yourself, what am I going to build and create that will generate this money or this energy that I want to make? And it first and foremost starts from you being able to manage energy flow inside. So build and create something powerful, build and create something great. Quick morning CEO routine. 5 steps of this. This is fundamental and has been fundamental in my business growth this year. So the morning CEO routine, remember that you can do this weekly and or daily. I do both. On the weekends, it's a lot longer. During the day, it's a lot less, usually anywhere. This morning, my morning routine was 5 minutes. 2 days ago, I spent about 45 minutes. So you should have a minimum and a maximum morning CEO routine. Make sure that you get some oxygen, right? Make sure that you do something to get your mind oxygen so it can wake up. And then, of course, you don't want to circumvent that by having a nice carb breakfast where you bonk. So eat something lean, eat something nice and healthy. I know I got some waffles on there, but those are actually low-carb waffles. And then do something to stimulate your brain. Something reading, something either in business or personal, motivational, YouTube videos, something like that. Read something. And then here we get into step number 4 is a little bit nebulous. You can review your day, review your goals from the top down. I do like I have my 4-year goals when I walk down the stairs to the basement to work out. I have my yearly goals in the basement right behind my TV where I work out. I got my quarterly goals in the office, weekly goals on my iCalendar in my computer. So you want to do a comprehensive review. Some people journal, they write their goals. I write my monthly goals every single day. And then once you're done with that, you want to pay attention to whatever resistance comes up. And then, of course, this is where you can go wild and crazy with anything from this course, right? Meditate on single anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limiting decisions. Except when you clear up anger, you always clear up what? That's right, sadness. You can do the 4-step clearing process. You can do the forgiveness piece. We're going to do that in a minute. But always remember to tap and always be clearing. So meditation time is key and successful. So you might say, well, James, you're not really telling me exactly what to do. And that's exactly right, because it's up to you to figure out what your process is going to be. So have it be organic, which means have it grow piece by piece by piece. So I like to use the 5 C's when I'm looking to install or build a new habit. First and foremost, you want it to be convenient, so it cuts down the resistance. Second is you want it to be consistent. That's why also you want it to be convenient so that you can do it consistent as possible, because there will be a moment in time when you hit a challenge, and when you fall off the wagon, you miss a day, whatever that is, you want to be able to commit to it again. Get back on the horse, right? Get back to and that's why it needs to be so convenient and so consistent so that when you hit a challenge, you can commit to it again. And then, of course, you need to be able to put positive emotional association to it. So even though it's something convenient and small, probably, if you're going to keep it consistent, you have to be able to celebrate it. Because remember that for every action we take, we're either anchoring in positive emotional states, or we're somehow anchoring negative emotional states, and we're doing so much work to clear that stuff up. We want to stay away from adding to it, of course. So always celebrate the positive aspects of it. So like Victor, whatever his name is, says, even if you fall on your face, you're always still moving forward. So convenient, consistent challenge, commit again, and celebrate. Keep your new processes to the 5 C's. Quick review, always remember, every emotion has an emotional energy attached to it. Every emotion is trying to tell us something about what we need to release. So remember that anger and fear, building emotional awareness comes from, first of all, are you feeling stimulated, right? Anger and fear are stimulants. They kind of jack us up. They have higher energy levels because you're like, ooh, right? Sadness and guilt are the opposite. They're depressants. So generally speaking, you will feel greater emotional releases between anger, fear, and sadness. Guilt, you might too. These, you'll feel more of a heaviness leaving you, because imagine if you're depressed, you're lethargic, something's holding you down. These, you'll feel more of a calmness come over you, like taking your foot off the gas. Real quick, anger is an emotional indicator. It's a limiting belief that, or I'm sorry, not a limiting belief. Anger represents, well, yes, it's a belief that someone has hurt or wronged you and you don't want to accept it because it hurts too much. So once we move through anger, which is a stimulant, usually we accept the situation. But then when we accept something as the way it is, there's a presupposition that we have to let go of everything that we wanted it to be, that now it isn't going to be. That's what brings on sadness. And sadness is a perception of a loss, a void, or an emptiness inside, feeling hollow, empty, melancholy. So we want to release sadness. And of course, always do anger then sadness together. You can do sadness by itself. If you do anger, you have to do sadness. And then comes fear, because fear means that something's filling in these gaps of loss, void, and emptiness. That's the way we don't want it to be. right? Something negative from the past happening again, or our projection of something in the future just coming out negative. So either way you look at it, whether it's fear or anxiety, fear is something from the past coming forward, and anxiety is something the way we don't want it to be in our future. So that's fear. And then, of course, guilt or regret means you violated a belief or a standard, or you haven't forgiven someone. You haven't learned what you need to learn, and that forgiven someone could very easily be you. So I want to make sure that we really let go of guilt. Guilt also includes shame, which is at 20 on the David Hawkins scale. So we want to really make sure we clear up guilt and shame, because those are the two most limiting negative emotional beliefs or energies, emotional energies we can have. And then, of course, limiting decisions, right? Those are just beliefs that are produced in an emotional moment, consciously and or unconsciously. Usually we don't experience an emotional, like a kinesthetic release from those, because it's just a decision. So there's no real emotion to it usually. Sometimes a decision can have a little bit of emotion linked to it, but really if it's just a limiting decision, there's nothing really there. So if you have any questions on that, of course, go ahead and write it down real quick. And we're going to continue to charge forward to our last audio releases for the basic program. And if you recall from our very first house experience, right? The house with the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, and the higher self there. The release course here consists of 7 primary releases. We want to release anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limiting decisions. Those are the first 5. Number 6 is forgiveness. And I'm going to give you the first forgiveness audio meditation today. There are 2 more that are included in the advanced course. Actually, there's 3. There's a short version and a long version for one of them. And so I'm going to give you the simplest, easiest one tonight. Now, I want to talk to you for just a minute about forgiveness. Forgiveness can be a derivative of anger, which is resentment. So forgiveness is one of the most authentic actions we can take that's based in truth, because it lets you connect with who you are in your heart, okay? Forgiveness means being willing to transcend the mental, emotional, and physical boundaries that are placed upon you. This is a big one. People say, well, I can't forgive them because of what they did to me. There's a big difference between forgiving someone and condoning their behaviors, okay? In NLP, we do believe that everybody's doing the best that they can with the skills and the tools that they have. That is never and is not an excuse or a justification for them to continue to act the way that they are. However, with forgiveness, what it allows you to do is to forgive them so you can release the negative energy that's around that, or forgive you to release your negative connection with that energy with you. And then in the case of the other person, it allows you to let them go so you can draw new boundaries for yourself around whatever happened in that interaction or that experience with them. Or for you, it's a shift then of you release of guilt and regret, perhaps, as you forgive yourself. So you're letting go of those internal negative belief systems or things that don't serve you anymore. Forgiveness, most people don't like it if they push back from it. It's because in order to forgive, you have to really allow yourself to be kind of vulnerable inside your mind, because what you're really releasing is your internal fear of that ever happening again, that experience ever happening again. So there's a lot of little nuances of forgiveness. It could be a little bit of anger, which is resentment. It could be a little bit of guilt and regret. It could even be a little bit of sadness for something that's happened. It could maybe be fear, or it could be like a combination of all those pieces together. But when we forgive, the other person in the real world is actually just a representation of you, and all forgiveness is really self-forgiveness. So even if you think, hey, I'm forgiving this other person, you're really just forgiving the part of you. We haven't talked about parts in NLP, but you're really just forgiving the part of you that let yourself be put in the situation where you felt wronged by them, and now you have resentment or fear or anger, sadness, fear, guilt, whatever that is. So all forgiveness truly is self-forgiveness, but it can be a tough place to go to sometimes, because it's a really nice excuse to have a protection mechanism. However, that's a limitation and a restriction that we're placing on ourselves that ultimately we want to release so we can open ourselves up to greater good. So that's a little bit of in-depth stuff about forgiveness. So why we forgive, it's 100% for you. I just said some of this. It is not for the other person. It's totally for you. You're releasing the negative emotions that are inside of you. That means you have to open yourself up and be vulnerable to see or feel or experience those again. And remember what I just said, forgiveness releases emotions like anger, resentment. And when you release the anger, the resentment, those negative emotions, it also means that you can't blame the other person anymore. That's a big protection mechanism, is for people to start to blame or judge other people for who or what they are. And they're really just a perception that is our own internal projection. So really it allows us, in some very deep levels, to become even more empowered for ourselves. And that's the end result of forgiveness, is that it results in greater feelings of peace, whole and healed and complete with the unconscious mind, balance, which means collapse of dichotomies, centeredness within yourself, and personal empowerment, right? Being more motivated, being able to move forward now, forgive and forget, as they say. But you don't forget what they did. You have to keep drawing boundaries, healthy boundaries for yourself. So this is the beautiful thing. You only need to be willing to forgive, and it'll automatically happen. As soon as you're willing, and the conscious mind says, hey, let's let it go, just like limiting emotions, negative emotions, limiting decisions, it happens instantaneously. So who do we forgive? Well, this is really interesting. You can forgive anyone, anything, at any time, at any moment. You could forgive anyone that you feel has wronged you. So that'd be a person, right? And a lot of times a clue for who you can forgive is, of course, someone that you have anger, resentment, or judgment towards. You can also forgive anybody that you blame for something not going your way or the way you want it to be. Imagine what that does in a relationship, right? Now, this is a beautiful thing. You can forgive anything and everything. I've gone back and forgiven myself at every single age. You can go back, you can forgive the government, you can forgive Obama, you can forgive Trump, you can forgive God, you can forgive a person, a dog, a chair, literally anything you can forgive. I've forgiven one of the biggest emotional releases I had with forgiveness was I was out doing this on the Greenway Trail. I was just jogging along, and all of a sudden my brain said, you know what, put the whole world, we're not here yet, this is the advanced forgiveness, but just, hey, put the whole world on the stage. And I put the whole world on the stage, and as soon as I did the process, it was like this huge emotional release. It was crazy, wonderful, awesome. Felt absolutely awesome. So you can literally, an object, a person, a thing, an idea, a concept, you can forgive anything or anyone that you blame or anything. So it's so simple, it's ridiculous. So how we forgive, this is a simple little meditation. It's an 8-minute meditation. I'm going to release it today or tonight and tomorrow. So all you do, like everything else, is you start with your breathing, in through the nose, out through the mouth, tap on the forehead, right? Focus on the light. And then you just picture the person who's wronged you, the item or the thing that you want to forgive. And you literally, with your own self-talk, when you're nice and deep and relaxed there with the light, after you picture the person, you just guide your unconscious mind and just say, hey, I forgive you. I forgive me. I love you. I love me. I let it go. It's done. And if you experience some resistance, then you say, great, what do I need to learn from this to let this go easily and effortlessly, right? And then just say again, I forgive you, I forgive me, I love you, I love me, I let it go, it's done. It's just that simple. If you, just for fun, I'll give you a little bonus here real quick. If you don't think this works, I'll give you the kinesthetic one. If you were just to stand up right now and think about everybody that you came in touch with today that maybe you thought was a jerk, maybe you thought wronged you, maybe you thought this or that about him, you judged him, whatever, think of all those people and just notice how you feel thinking about them energy-wise on a scale of 0 to 10. Then what I want you to do is stand with your feet shoulder width apart, put your shoulders back, put your chin up, and pretend like you just stepped out of the shower. And I want you just to run your hands through, and you're going to wipe all the water off your body. So don't take your clothes off, keep them on, but just run your hands through over the top of your head, down your face, right down your front, your torso, your shoulders, your arms, top and bottom, right down your front, put them up, brush it off down your tush, down your thighs, your calves, your shins, all the way down, shake it out, and then just kind of clap your hands together, right? Brush your hands together like you've got flour on them, and just say, I let it go, it's done. I forgive you, I forgive me. I love you, I love me, I let it go, it's done. If you did that process like I just did in about 30 seconds, you'll know that it works because in both of your palms, they'll start to tingle, and you'll feel like some energy there. And if you, even with your eyes open, if you're nice and calm and relaxed, you should actually feel a little bit of energy right above the top of your head, like your hair is going to stand on end. When you meditate on the light, you let that infinite source of love, healing energy come in through the top of you. And just notice how you feel now on that scale of 0 to 10. So I do this in between all my coaching calls. I do it at the end of the day when I'm listening to 12, 14 people with all their problems. I got to, brush that stuff off. So we cut those connections to do that. So moving forward, this is how you can get the most out of this course. So I know there's a lot of writing on this page, but let's just take it a half at a time. So this is what I do, generally speaking, on a weekly basis to use this course. I'd love to see all of you in the advanced course. If you make it, great. If you don't, I'm sorry for that, because I'm going to tell you what's included in that. But on the weekly review, when I do my CEO morning routine on the weekend, I get up, I breathe, eat, journal something, read something, and then I go for a walk or I go for a run. And when I'm journaling in step number 4, I use that keys to an achievable outcome for my goal, right? What's my SMART goal? What's the very last thing that needs to happen? I go through and I write all those questions out. And then I ask my unconscious mind, hey, just bring up all that anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limiting decision, or people, things I need to forgive. Then what I do is I throw on my tennis shoes, whatever, and I just go for a walk or I go for a run. And I have programmed these into a simple playlist in my iPhone. And that's literally what I do. I go out and I think about my goal and I think about all those things that just came up when I did the keys to an achievable outcome, the anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limiting decision, people and things I need to forgive. And then I just go through and I listen to all these in a row. I just say, hey, unconscious mind, hey, Jimmy, right? Just clear up everything. And I clear up anger and I clear up sadness. I clear up fear. I clear up guilt. I clear up any limiting decisions around it. And I forgive anybody and everything that's holding me back from that I resent for it or whatever. And that's it. It takes me 8 minutes a piece. This is 8, 16, 32. And another 16 is 48 minutes, maybe. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so about an hour, right? And I just clear all those up in a row. And I feel like fantastic the whole rest of the weekend. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll throw on the 4-step clearing process right at the end after forgiveness. And then as soon as I come home, I'll just take an immediate action and move towards my goal. Or I'll just make sure that I ask myself, hey, what's one thing I can do today to move towards my goal? And at some point in time during the day, I'll do it. So you can even add that in to the process. If you don't want to do a whole hour and you're like, James, I only got 30 minutes, great. Sometimes I just go through and say, what do I feel like listening to around my goal? So let's go fear. Okay, let me just clear up fear. So maybe I clear up fear and forgiveness and do the 4-step clearing process. Or I'll just do limiting decisions and then the 4-step clearing process. Use this however you want. Ask your unconscious mind, let it guide you for what you want to do moving forward to make your life be what you want it to be. Because remember, your unconscious mind knows what you can release or what it needs to release for you to be whole and healed and complete and move towards your goal. So have fun with this, play with it, see what works, test it, try it. Don't take my word for it. Use it. Do whatever you need to do. That's what I do on a weekly basis, at least once on Saturday or Sunday. ideally. On a daily, go ahead and write down your questions for that real quick. On a daily basis, this is how I use the program. And there are two ways to use this. One is proactive and one is reactive. Just like on the weekend, I proactively write my goal, keys to achievable outcome, and then I clear this up. Anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limited decision, people, things to forgive. Anger, sadness, fear, guilt, limited decision, and forgiveness, and then the 4-step clearing process. In a daily basis, I do a little bit of what I said before. I do my morning routine, I focus on my goal, and then I either just say, what do I feel like listening today to clear stuff up? And I come in my office and just listen to that one track for at least 8 minutes. Sometimes it's anger and sadness, so that's 16. Sometimes it's sadness by itself, fear, guilt, whatever. This morning, what did I do this morning? This morning I did one from the advanced course, but I needed to do a little recharge before. So, actually that one was the advanced course too. But yesterday I did do a fear release, actually. So one of the things I did yesterday morning after my CEO routine was fear. That was it. So I just listened to fear and then jumped into my day. It was 8 minutes. Sometimes I listen to all these for the day. So daily, kind of pick and choose and just ask yourself, what the time that I have, what do I feel like releasing around my goal? And then just do that. Or just use as a backup, no matter what, the 4-step process is perfect for anything at any time. So there are two ways to do this. Like I said, one is right after your morning meditation, which is proactive because you're purposely choosing to do it. The other one is reactive. So as you feel yourself going through the day, like if I used to be in a place where if I was going through the day and I had a client that didn't show up, like I had a client today, my noon just didn't show up. So I called him, left messages, dropped him an email, said, hey, when do you want to reschedule? I used to have a lot of fear around, oh my gosh, what happened? Is the client coming back? Yes or no? So how I cleared that up was in that time or that space that I would have had when they didn't show up and they didn't call back. Perfect. I would just jump in and just clear up fear and then just let it go. Right? So you can do this reactively in terms of any time you notice any of these negative emotions coming up, because remember, awareness is important. Great. Just drop in your chair for 8 minutes and let it go real quick. So sometimes I end up doing these little single individual meditations, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've done as much as like 6, 7, 8 times a day sometimes. When I was first starting out, remember the big bell curve there. So just use this daily, more for individual moments when you may feel like you need something. So the 4-step clearing process actually fits and is, I want to just talk about this again real quick, the 4 main outcomes that I believe for meditating. So you always want to ask yourself, don't just listen to stuff to listen to it. Have an outcome always for what you're going to meditate for. The 4-step clearing process combines all 4 of the outcomes together into one. In my opinion, from here on out, whether you go by, like I had one of my guys from the initial class say, hey, I heard about this uncommon knowledge place. I'm expanding my hypnosis meditation collection. Are they any good? First thing I said was, I don't know if they're any good or not, even though I have some of their stuff. I said, hey, what are your outcomes that you're achieving? Is your outcome just to grow your meditation library, or is your outcome to achieve a specific outcome or a change of behavior, right? What's the mental, emotional release you're looking for? He couldn't answer that right away. So you want to make sure that you always have an outcome. So these are the 4 outcomes for meditation, and they're in order, they become the 4-step clearing process. So anytime you meditate, the first outcome is just to relax, meditate on the light, or if you go deep enough, right, the blue-black spot. Get rid of your head trash, and just, find that Om place, whatever, where everything stops. And there you can just energize your mind, your body, and your spirit. I did that actually about 8:15 tonight to about 8:25. I was just tired. I needed some energy, so I stopped and breathed and meditated for 10 minutes, cleared my head. Perfect. So if you want to just energize your mind, body, spirit, meditation is perfect. The second way, which is what this course is built on, of course, is releasing negative emotions, limiting decisions, and beliefs. We're just going to do this into the light. So this first part actually clears the conscious mind of the negative self-talk, and then we're going to release the emotional pieces as well out of the body, right? And we're going to just give that up to the light, so to speak. So now we've cleared the conscious mind, and we've listened to what the unconscious mind is bringing back up to us to release. Then what we're going to do, you've heard people say, you got to visualize your goal. You got to visualize your goal. That's the third step to the process. But notice the order that it's in. First, we have to clear up all the anger and the sadness and everything else, so we're not projecting that into the goal when we put it out there to the universe. We want to be balanced, centered, and say, hey, this is what I want. Let's just do it with no negative emotions attached to it whatsoever. And if anything, there's some positive ones attached to it, because you get back from the universe tenfold of what you give to it. So we want to give it good stuff. If we're going to give it something, we might as well give it something good. And then, of course, the last one is once you put the goal in the light, to ask for guidance, the clear next step, and then we get up and take that action immediately. So these, I know we covered this a little bit earlier, but remember that the 4-step clearing process actually covers all 4 of the outcomes that we can achieve for meditation, even if you do them individually. And then, of course, last but not least, always remember to say thank you to your unconscious mind, your inner child, because it wants to know when it's done a good job. So moving forward here, a little bit about the advanced course. I want to talk to you for 2 seconds. The basic course, I covered this at the beginning. I had 3 main outcomes for this course. And if you think about the audio meditations, you'll be able to piece this together real quick. First, we wanted to start to learn to build rapport with the inner child so we could begin to trust it, and it can begin to trust us in our working together. In order to build this trust, remember that rapport equals relaxation. So we started the first meditations from the first session through learning to breathe, learning to tap the third eye, and then learning to see the light, because that allows us then to build that trust for the unconscious mind and start to drop down into moments of awareness where we start to picture everything that the unconscious mind wants to bring back up now. But instead of it being scared that we're going to shove it back down, now it can trust us because we're going to start to actually release this stuff and let it go. And so we initially just said, hey, give me a random single emotional release for anger, sadness, fear, guilt, or limiting decisions, or like for today, forgiveness. So everything here has been about building, welcoming and getting connected with the inner child, building the meditation so that you can have the rapport and the trust with it, so that then it trusts you to give up what it knows it needs to release in order to be whole and healed and complete. But we're just letting it be in charge to build that trust by saying, hey, just give me a random single emotional thing. I don't care what it is, just give it to me. The advanced course, so the advanced course is an acceleration of all of these processes. So if we look at what I just said, basically this is like the very first event. And the reason I put it sideways is because we're way out here somewhere in now. And when we do the 4-part clearing process, or when we build the unconscious mind, that random single event, it may come back into our psyche and just pull up this one thing here. It may come back the next time and pull up this one thing over here. Next time it might come back and pull up this. Sometimes it might come back and pull up this. We don't know what it's going to give us to release, but it's only going to give us just this single event. Tad James developed a simple process called timeline work. And so the basic premise of this is your brain stores your memories in a logical sequence, in time or through time. We'll learn about this in the advanced course. The way that it learns is by creating an association to something it already knows. So let's just say you had a baby today, and baby equals happiness. You look at your baby, that equals happiness. Tomorrow, you might look at your baby, and that's going to create happiness. The next day, you might look at your baby, and that creates happiness. These start to link together, and that creates happiness. Now, you might come over here and realize that all of a sudden your baby starts to cry. And your baby starts to cry, and all of a sudden, instead of being happy, you have scared. And then as your baby cries next time, scared comes over here, and it starts to link on all these new associations to scared, but then you also have some anxiety and some fear. So now you have anxiety and fear that starts to build on all these. And every single time that happens, imagine these continuing to go on. If every single one of these was one of these, and you stacked all these layers on, going out farther and farther and farther and farther and farther out in the future, this is our neurology inside your brain. Your brain has 10, if you think exponents, your brain has 10 to the 11th possible neurological connections, right? So we want to learn, instead of just, do you know how long it would take to just come back and clear out one thing here and one thing here and one thing here and one thing here? What timeline work does is we start to, with the rapport we've built with the unconscious mind, start to guide and direct it more specifically by having the goal, and then going through timeline work and saying, what's the very first event, the root event, which when disconnected will allow us to release all of the anger, the sadness, whatever it is around a goal. What that allows us to do is we go back to this one, and when we collapse and reframe this and take all the energy and the emotional release out of it, it naturally, imagine these are dominoes. As this tips over, this tips over, this tips over, all these tip over, this tips over, all these tip over. And pretty soon, all of this, instead of being red, which means it would be a lit up emotion, everything just turns white. And there's no emotion to this. You still have all the memories, but now you're totally neutral. There's absolutely no emotional association left to it. So metaphorically, the other way is, we've been just saying, hey, you're walking through the grocery store, and the unconscious mind says, hey, just give me something to clear up that you don't like. So you just happen to be going down the canned bean aisle. Hey, there's some canned chickpeas. You don't like chickpeas? Great. We just take that one can of chickpeas and we throw it in the trash. What timeline does, it allows you to put your arm in that whole shelf of peas, anything that's related, or beans, anything that's related to a garbanzo bean, and just wipe out the whole shelf. Just blow the whole shelf out. So now everything goes in the trash and the shelf is clean. So that's what timeline does, is it helps to blow out entire gestalts. And I'm sorry, a gestalt is just a group of negative emotions or happy emotions that have all been linked together in the neurology. That's what a gestalt is. We're also going to do the same thing with forgiveness. There are 2 additional forgiveness exercises that are like timeline exercises. So instead of just asking for one thing to forgive and clear up, you're going to be able to forgive and clear up entire gestalts all the way back to the very first time that they happened in forgiveness, and really accelerate your clearing results. So if you liked what you've done so far, that's going to be even more accelerated with anger, sadness, and fear. With timeline work and that. And then, of course, the 7th clearing tool, the last tool, the 7th clearing tool here, is I'm going to move this out of the way. The last clearing tool is called dichotomies or parts integrations, clearing up opposites. This basically allows you to just take all the shelves out of the grocery store, so there isn't even a reference to what a bean is, right? Or anything canned is. Everything in life is a dichotomy: masculine, feminine energy, yin, yang, right? Hot, cold. This is, the morning yin yang sign, right? So we have dichotomies. We can, coming back to the map of consciousness, instead of clearing up instance by instant, or even a timeline piece of blame, we can collapse blame with whatever's on the other side of blame and collapse this whole thing that moves us to the next levels. So dichotomy work is even one level higher than single events, or it's 2 levels higher than that, and it's 1 level higher than timeline work, clearing gestalts, because it literally is an even higher general clearing process that has even deeper meaning. So we might clear up something like money, no money, or you might clear up something like love, no love, abandonment versus, total connection. But dichotomies, or in NLP we call them parts integrations, clearing up opposites, is really some of the deepest, best work that you can possibly do in the shortest amount of time with the greatest amount of results. So they're also a little bit tricky, but they're so easy once you get the hang of it. It's wonderful. So this is what's coming up. If you choose to do the accelerated class, literally it is an accelerated class on clearing tools and techniques. Now, you have to forgive me in advance because I redid everything up to this point. The dates for the Advanced Achieve Anything Now course, of course, are not February 5th and 22nd, March 1st and March 8th. The advanced course starts on May 17th through June 7th. So May 17th through June 7th, exact same format like this webinar was, exact same price like this webinar was, the $197 price. You'll get a link in the next couple of days. I'm going to send out a couple of emails to you, so you'll have an opportunity to sign up if you want. There's a separate sign-up page. It's really simple. Every single week, it's going to be Wednesdays, 9 o'clock, just like now. And every single week, of course, you'll get a Dropbox file that's updated with the webinar audio and the PowerPoint presentation. And you'll also get week by week by week specific audio meditations to be released as well. Just like with the basic course, you're welcome to always come back and audit it. You'll have access to the class forever. You'll also be open to call me, ask me questions. I'll set up some time with you if you ever need. So the email will be sent out in the next couple of days. If you have an interest in signing up for that, there'll be 2 or 3 opportunities. So I really hope to see you there. This is on steroids. Besides, it gives you 2 weeks to continue to just get into a nice pattern and a nice rhythm with your morning CEO routine, the 5 C's, and clearing things up. Because then when we jump into this advanced class, you'll have all the nice habits, everything right there in place, so you can just start to substitute some of these new clearing tools for what you're already doing and enhance your results even more. As always, I love your Q&A, so please send it back to me. And just like I said, we're actually, I think, a few minutes early on the hour here. So I'm going to stop the recording and open it up for Q&A.